Hey, I'm Jimmy here in Sydney for Talkshops, and I'm an artist and designer. So at the beginning, I was probably like 13, 14, and my neighbour, his sister was like a big into hip hop, and she had this collection of Hype magazines. And I used to go over there and we used to just like look through her collection of magazines. And Hype magazine back in the day was the first, oh, sorry Josh. It was the first, one of the first graffiti magazines in the world, and it was made in Australia. It was these two twins that made it, and it was all like this cut and paste kind of like drawings that were all put together. This is before there was computers or anything like that, so it was all like just, I don't even know how they did this. Must have been like photocopied or something like that. You put it all together, scanned it in. And this was like super inspiring to me. We used to sit down and like copy all the drawings out of it, and all these like b-boy characters with like stupid massive shoes and laces and things like that, and carrying Uzis and stuff. And at the same sort of time, you know, this generation of hip hop which was going on was just this. It was really inspiring at the time. It felt like something that you could actually be involved in, and these were people that, it didn't seem like this $1 million exclusive thing. It was like, you know, people that were sort of doing it for the love, and I found that very inspiring at the time. And then movies like Star Wars, which was in the 80s, New York, and it was kind of like at the time when it all started, so it was like breakdancing, graffiti, and hip hop. And if you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend checking it out. And you know, people like Dondi and things like that, painting trains. I found that super inspiring at the time, and I just got obsessed with, you know, drawing at the beginning, and then putting my stuff out there and doing work. And it was really cool to just be like this nobody kid, and I'd see these other people that were up on the train lines, and they were like idols to me. I'm like, oh, who's this person? And like they were. And then to be able to put your work out there, and the way that like we didn't have any money, we were in high school, or we didn't have, there was no money incentive. There was never any way that, the only thing that was really waiting for you was like for other writers to kick your ass, or to be put in jail, or police to kick your ass and things like that. So there was nothing financial or anything to be gained from it. It was just more that us doing it for ourselves and our community, and trying to inspire each other basically. So I was just obsessed with this for quite some time, still am a little bit. And this is like, I put these works here. These are different ones that I've done that let me travel to different parts of the world. And this was, pre-social media, so it was like, you knew someone who was in Japan, and you'd hit them up and be like, hey, I'm coming to Japan, can you show me around? And they would like, show you around, let you sleep on their couch sometimes, like you get this whole underground tour of different cities. So there was Los Angeles, in Berlin. We actually won this Melbourne had this competition, it was called Right for Gold, and we won that competition. It was like an Australian wide, and then we got flown to Germany to compete there, and it was just really fun tour. Like a bunch of my friends, we all went. This was in New Zealand. This was in Melbourne when I first went there, and you get to connect with all these different creatives, and it was just really cool. Like these people didn't know you from a bar of soap, but we knew that we had something in common, and they would sort of be like, okay, cool, you come to my city, I'll look after you, I'll show you things. And it was a really good way to see new places and meet new people and other creatives. There's continuation of that, just kept sort of doing stuff, and it just like the different ways that I enjoyed the different ways that you could push a creative idea in the restraints of certain letters, So you had these, I had, 6 letters or whatever that I'm working with, and then your different ways that you can manipulate those to get across different ideas. And, that was basically like my induction into design and how to design and sort of, doing different things with letters, characters, colors, and that was what got me interested in doing graphic design. Graphic design to me was more about, I could see that I didn't have the digital skills to get me to do the sort of things that I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a graphic designer, but I wanted to learn those skills because I knew that I'd need those to keep going and to pursue what I wanted to do. More graffiti stuff, sort of more of abstract sort of style as well. And this is different people. This is this is Brisbane when I started off, and at the time I wanted to get the hell out of Brisbane. At a certain point, I was just like, I'd had enough. But I look back, and I think because the majority of people there weren't into the type of things that I was into and my friends were into. We were very much the minority, but that kind of made it a stronger scene in a way because we were, it made it really tight and we had to really work together and it created this real energy. And at that time, a lot of really cool things happened. And these were all friends of mine, artists from the beginning. We've got Fint McGee, Guido Van Helden, Soffels, Lister, all went on to do really cool things. And they're all part of that scene of our friends and people who were doing stuff. And it was really cool to see them just sort of, they stuck with it and they just were killing it. It was really inspiring to see. Other brands that came out at the same time. These two guys studied with me in when I went to design school, guys from Passport and Uppercut and Ironlac. I knew this guy just from graffiti. They do art supplies and have their own, they've got a store in Sydney now and do, got distribution worldwide and quite a big brand, but it's, it's just a guy who wanted to make spray paint affordable. And he had an idea and he just made it happen and it grew into something bigger. So that's just a small snapshot of just some people, from a scene that went on to do other things. And that was part of that scene. And I guess it's the same as, like music, like punk music or all sorts of music as well, hip hop and that sort of things. And, different, and graffiti and skate culture and that sort of thing. There wasn't money, and especially back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was people just doing it because they loved it. And if you wanted a skate park, they just got concrete and they built it, and they had a skate park. If you wanted to put on a gig, you found a basement or a house and a garage, you put it on. If you wanted to paint somewhere in this billboard, which you'd have to pay millions of dollars or whatever to rent out and have to get approval, you just painted it. You went and got the paint. You organised it and you painted it, and just that attitude of getting stuff done. And I think like we were doing stuff illegally, and other people just sort of, and you had to bend the rules a little bit. But that idea of doing stuff and not so much worrying about all the tape and all the red tape and worrying about what could happen. You just did it off your own back for the people around you, and that gave you that confidence later on. If you wanted to do something. If you wanted to start your own brand, it didn't seem as daunting. I think a lot of people who maybe, they maybe see things as it's very daunting to start off as an artist or to start a brand or something like that. No one knows what they're doing when they start. You just have to honestly just start doing it. I would assess, the risks of it first. Start doing it. You'll learn. The best way to learn is from doing it. From there, once you start putting energy into that, you'll meet other people. If you say, I want to be a designer, you start going to design things. Hey, I'm Jimmy, I'm a designer. You're now a designer. If you network with those people, and then like, oh yeah, Jimmy, he's cool, he's a designer too. Yeah, it starts this sort of, this direction. And if you keep doing more work, you start doing design work or whatever it is, artwork, you want to be a skateboard or whatever. If you keep doing things in that direction, people see that, especially now with social media and everything. It's so much easier to get your ideas out there. It's not, you can, and other people will see that and they'll be like, oh, I really liked what you did there, and other things will start leading onto that, and you'll get more and more, and it starts gaining momentum. But you have to make that first path and to set that direction. If you don't have the guts to do what you want to do, and you stick to the safe road of what you think that's going to be, you can do that, but what you put your energy in is just going to lead to more of that stuff that you're not really inspired to. If you push yourself in the direction that you want to do, more and more stuff's going to lead to that. And I found out now that one of your best assets is your time and your energy. You only have so much time and energy, and if whatever you put that into, that's going to be that's going to be your thing. But you need, if you're putting your energy into your day job, you're not going to have any energy to do the stuff on the side. Saying that, if you do have a day job on the side to start off with while you're starting it, but you need to start that momentum, and then as it builds, keep putting more into it. Okay, so then I started, after doing graffiti for a while, and sort of, like, to me it was like building a brand. It seemed like you had to get something, put it out there, do a good quality job, push it really hard, put all your energy into it, and we started building a name and started building a reputation. And these guys are good to deal with, or whatever. They had a certain reputation. And I was like, I could do this. This is like a brand is basically the same thing. If I put my energy into this, I think I could build something, and I was so obsessed with graffiti at the time. I was just like, if I could put even a half of this energy into something that an actual business, I know that I could make something out of it. And this was like, I really didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't. I'd studied design. I got work experience for a couple of months. And then I was like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm just going to do this. And I really didn't know what I was doing, but I learned along the way. And through those mistakes, I do a few things differently, because I almost like went under a few times in the beginning just from making mistakes that I could avoid now. And it wasn't so much of like, yeah, we're going to do this DIY. There was just no other way to do it. Like, there wasn't money. There was like, you just had to do these jobs yourself. Like, I did my first production offshore, and I got the shipment, and I was living at home at the time. I moved back home, which was actually a blessing, because I didn't have all these bills and stuff to, like, all these money pressures to, stop you actually doing what you wanted to do. So that was, I was really grateful for that. And I was like, oh, Dad, I'm just going to get like a few boxes delivered of the new stuff. He's like, yeah, cool. And then this like truck arrives, and there was just so much, like, I don't know, just a t-shirt takes up, and hoodies and that sort of thing, they take up a lot of room. And there was just like this whole truck of stock. And then we just had to like move it up, and the whole veranda was just like all stock. And then I had to start bringing it inside, and there was like the living room, the couch, and there was boxes, and then there was a hole in the boxes so you could see the TV through the boxes from the couch. And like, it was like, when are you getting this shit out of here? I'm like, yeah, soon, it's selling, I just got to pack orders. And like, so that was, we just had to get it done, and it got done. I might have burned a few bridges with my family, but they still love me. But what do we got next? Oh, so this is some of the artists that we've had the honor of working with, and I looked up to a lot of these people, and some of these people I was just like, no way this person's going to work with us, but it was just a matter of like reaching out to them. They're like t-shirts, you don't make much money on t-shirts. Like, the cost of the t-shirt is quite a lot of money just in itself, and the printing and everything like that. You're only making like, couple of hundred. There's really not that much money, and to get some of these artists who, in my eyes, and they were, earning big dollars on a lot of things, but for them to work with us was more about me just reaching out for starters, and secondly is because a lot of these people too knew my background in graffiti and that sort of thing, and I knew them from that and that sort of community. So, they were like, yeah, cool, we like what we're doing, we believe in what you're doing, we're keen to be a part of it. And that was really cool. And I think a lot of people are daunted by that, but I think if you're doing something that other people believe in, they're much more willing to get behind it, as opposed to, you've got a lot of money and they don't really believe in it. They're like, yeah, I might do it if you pay me a lot of money. But, people are really willing to do stuff if you just ask them. This is a collection we did with Ed Repka. He did all the stuff for Megadeth and a whole bunch of sort of 80s and 90s cult metal bands. It was quite cool. Numbskulls, Sydney artists. A lot of these people, like, through doing these projects, became friends and things like that. So that was really cool too, and I think that was really rewarding in itself too. Half of it was, for me, it was just like, I'm just going to do something, and there's going to be a chance to meet all different people and work with them. You can't just email someone normally and be like, hey, I like your stuff. let's hang out, like it's kind of weird. So, but if you're like, hey, let's work on something, and then it gives you that chance to actually create something together. That's really cool. So, and I guess a brand is that. To me, a brand was a foundation to do cool projects on. Not so much because I was like, yeah, I want to make like a fashion label. I was more like, I want a base so I can do cool things and work with creatives. That's what it was for me. Other guys, so Lister, Kid Zoom, Ron English and Roan, all quite very well regarded artists in their own right. They've all managed to work with us for peanuts. So it's just a matter of hitting them up. You really don't know until you try. So just go out there and hit them up. Who's this? Shit. Sean Morris. God, it's a total blank there. Next. This was a collection we did, the Maui collection. This, it was just like a shirt and shorts at the beginning, and then it just went like, somehow like Kendrick Lamar, this is when he was early on, his stylist hit us up and was like, oh, we want some stuff for this shoot. And I was like, okay, cool. Sent it out. And then he ends up like wearing it on this massive stage. And then he right before he dropped Good Kid, Mad City, and it just blew up. And then we had a whole bunch of, amazing people. And this range went nuts. And then it's like we just did everything in this print and it just went nuts with it. If something's doing well, like, yeah, it's cool doing something limited edition, but if something's doing well, you just got to ride it, hey? So that was really fun, and that was a great experience. This is some different artists over the years who have picked up and worn our stuff. And it's like half of this stuff is, sometimes you just get someone who would pick it up, and like Odd Future came out here and like one of them was wearing it. I was like, what the hell? That was one of the only ones that actually just like happened spontaneously. They just bought it at like in a Sydney store. A lot of these, like we hit up these guys, hit up their managers, hit up their tour managers, hit up their record label. The way I think about it, a lot of these things, it's like, and also starting the label and a lot of these ventures, it's like, what have I got to lose from doing this? Like, am I going to be any worse off? Or it's like, if it doesn't work out this time, I'm going to be back to where I am right now. If it works out, great, something amazing could happen. And a lot of the time, if it doesn't even work out that well, or you try it, you learn something and it fails, at least you've learned something and then you can use that to do another project. And I think, like I always thought with Grand Scheme at the beginning, I was like, if I do this and it fails, I'm going to be able to get a job for another company way higher up than where I am now. So I figured I may as well just try, like I've got nothing to lose really. So, and when you're young and you don't have heaps of overheads and you don't have like, too many pressures of like, life and kids and people you got to support, now's the time to do that stuff, and to just try as many things as you can and push as much stuff. And if something works, great. If it doesn't, you learn from it and take that experience and move on and do something else. And what you do the first time isn't always going to be what is, the end thing. It's normally like you try something, you learn something, it kind of works, but then you figure out that maybe I need to switch a few things and this will actually work better. And then you kind of switch it up. You try that, oh, this actually works, but now I'm going to, switch over, and you just keep evolving it. And a lot of these great ideas, they don't happen overnight. It's people working on something, evolving, and getting through it, and it just keeps getting better and better. And that's the way you do it. There's different design stuff I've done for Grand Scheme over the years. I really enjoy this side of the label. Don't get me wrong, a lot of it is like literally when you've got I guess there's two different types of business. You've got a product business and you've got a services business. As in like Grand Scheme, we create a product, which is t-shirts. A service business is like something like Uber or Airbnb where they provide a service, and they just facilitate. I guess they're not, yeah. So with the product business, you spend a lot of your time developing the product, sampling the product, warehousing the product, shipping the product, dealing with the, all the logistics of it, as opposed to a service, say if you're an artist where you get someone hits you up to do something, you do the creative, you know, put together, you might email them or whatever, then you actually do it, you do the painting, and then you're done, you know, and there's a big difference. And from a creative, I think it's interesting to know that there's a lot of people are drawn to product businesses, but it's definitely, I reckon it's, after doing both, product business is a lot more work in just the running of it. And this is the creative side, and I love this side of it. Excellent. Some other illustration stuff that I've done for the brand. Just, you know, it's fun just sort of being able to work this sort of stuff in. Sometimes you get so pressed for deadlines and everything like that, you'd end up, you know, you didn't have time to hand illustrate stuff, but I've sort of been slowing down a little bit more and spending a bit more time on things, which has been really enjoyable. More graphics that I've done over the years. Yeah. Some stuff we did with Felipe Pantone, an artist from Spain. Yeah, just some fun sort of, and this is like the very last like 2% of the project, all the rest is behind it. Jess Cochran, Sydney artist. Alex, I forgot his last name, sorry. Huh? No. Oh, God. Anyway, I'm so bad. I've got a real bad thing with like forgetting people's names in pressure. Anyway, I'm sorry. Next. So this is onto the more the creative stuff that I'm doing as well. So this is something I did for Revok recently. And like I said, this is, you know, I guess being employed to do a service, and they come in and say, hey, we want you to art direct our new shoot. You come in, and it's, you know, it's really fun. This artist, we were working with Taps from New Zealand. He was actually great to photograph. It's pretty hard to take a bad photograph of him. This is for their new campaign. Another one of those. Yeah, so these are really fun to work on this sort of stuff. This is with Spit Syndicate, Sydney hip hop duo, branding for them, and then I did like their merch and everything like this as well, and all the CDs and all that sort of stuff. This was another really fun project to work on. And then this sort of came full circle, and then you know, friends of mine who were doing this art stuff and continue doing that were hit me up when I was in Sydney. So I was in Brisbane originally, moved to Melbourne, was there for about 6-7 years, moved here recently, and they wanted me to do some painting stuff and some mural work for them, because I used to do that back in the day, but as I got busier, I sort of started focusing more on grand scheme. And I started getting back into it again recently, and I just kind of forgot how much I actually love this, and it's just working on just the creative, and just being, you know, being quite selfish, not having a client to worry about, not having anyone you're really trying to sell to, you're just sort of doing it. And this has been really fun, and I've been sort of had this new revitalized passion for doing this again. So I've started doing, I guess one of those things is starting to put more energy into it. So I've started putting more and more energy into this again. And I've started, I literally set up a Squarespace website. Nowadays, I think there's so much technology out there which is like so easy. Like you've got all this social media, there's all these, you know, you can set up a website easy. It's really not that difficult from starting off to getting to a point where you look pretty polished as a, presenting your brand or whatever it is without spending a huge amount of money. And, you know, so, you know, when you basically get an ABN, you set up a Instagram or whatever, you can set up a website if you want, and you can start doing things that easily. You know, you start putting stuff in there, start networking, it will happen. So this is more sort of on this bird tangent at the moment. I keep these like textures of the city, and sort of mixing that with nature, sort of spending my time between the two worlds, I guess, in the city, and then going away and trying to get out of Sydney on the weekends. And yeah, next. This is one I did a couple of days ago for ILAC store. Yeah, so it's been really good to work on this sort of stuff and to see that, I guess being an artist is always what I wanted to do, I guess, but it always seemed really daunting to me, like, oh, I'm not good enough to be an artist. You know, it's like, there's always going to be someone that's better than you. There always is. But it's just a matter of like, I know I can do certain things, and if you keep doing it, like Guido, for instance, he hadn't even painted like a portrait until like, I don't know if you know his work, but he does amazing portraits on huge, you know, huge buildings, and just, you know, just freehand basically. And they look amazing, but he hadn't even painted portraits like a couple of years ago, and it's something that he did. He's like, he wanted to do more of, he started it, and as you do it, you get better, and the best way to learn is just from doing it. And now he's up there with, you know, I'd say one of the best in the world at that sort of thing. And it's just a matter of like getting your thing, sticking to it. That portrait there was something I don't think I've painted really any portraits before. That was one of the first ones I've done. It's not on the Guido level, and it was quite hard because it was doing it in negative. I painted all the colour first and then worked from the white up, so you couldn't really make a mistake. But it was, yeah, it's just putting yourself out there, trying new things, and you get better as you do them more. And yeah, don't be afraid to try things that seem daunting, because, you know, if you put that energy into it and you've got the right energy, I think, you know, things will work out in the end. Either way, you'll meet a bunch of good people and gain some experience, or you might make a new career for yourself. So just give it a go. Next, shameless plug, Instagram. Thank you for listening. Cheers.